You
Yeah.
know what? You know what's so crazy about the scale that PayPal is at as well is that now because people start to look at it, and it's being valued like a, uh, like a value stock at this point. Is they have so many levers that have proven to be great enhancements in the way that they can improve total processing volume. Like for example, they highlight it every quarter, but their pass keys, such a small
Mhm.
innovation. Hey, we're going passwordless. We're going to send you a code. That's how you're going to log in. That this is what we're going to do going forward. Because they realize just the smallest thing. The reason why people were not using PayPal previously, the number one reason was they forgot their password, right?
Yeah.
It's small, but it leads to a massive increase in total payment volume and people making more purchases on the platform. And so they're rolling that out globally, and they can flip that switch. And if they talk about it all the time, right? Oh, this thing increases conversions by 20%. What does a 20% increase on total payment volume on PayPal across 400 million users? That those are massive levers to switch, and they only have to create it once and develop it or and deploy it over time. So,
Yep.
for example, you were talking about some of the in-house things that they're doing with PayPal Complete Payments through their small business stuff, and we'll get to that. But their digital wallet side, where they're kind of offering app users the ability to get high interest savings or high interest yields, do direct deposit, shop through the app, all of these different things. I think you have that right now. If you were to go on the PayPal app right now, where you're located, for me, it's not even available. They
Mm,
said that 55% of PayPal users have that ability to have like that digital sort of super app that they're developing. Instantly, they see a 35% increase in average revenue per user, 60% increase in TPV, total processing volume, 60%, 25% less churn. And they only have that rolled out to 55% of users. What's that going to be just to roll out that one function to 45 the rest of us, to people like
yep.
me, you know? That
Yep.
that that alone leads to massive amounts of TPV right there, and that's not including all the other levers that they're also working on.
Yep.
Like,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my gosh, it's just it's pretty exciting, when you think about it like that, and when you describe things like that, and you put the numbers up, you start
yeah.
to even think about the stock a little differently, and it stops kind of being put in that value category, and you start to think like this is more of a growth engine than anything,
Yeah,
when they
but,
can make these sorts of innovations.
but priced as a value stock.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. Recently, so in the private stock group, I was chatting with a bunch of folks. We were in the PayPal chat, and we were just talking about all types of different stuff. And some people didn't own PayPal, and they were kind of like, kind of like pushing back against PayPal's thesis and whatnot. And one of the gentlemen was like, I don't think PayPal is very relevant now. I never use PayPal. I
Yep.
use Google Pay. And he's like, I use Google Pay. I know some people that use Google Pay. And I was like, I've never used Google Pay in my life. And I love Google. I love YouTube. I've never used it in my life. I don't know anybody that uses Google Pay. But then we were talking, other people were like, I use this or I use that. And it really gets across the point of Braintree specifically and how important it is that of that side of the business, which is there's so many different facets when it comes to PayPal that it gets forgotten. People just think of it as like the PayPal app and that's it or something. And they forget about Venmo or then they forget about Braintree. And I'm like, at the end of the day, as a business, like I feel like almost everybody's going to need to have ways that you can pay through debit cards, credit cards, through Apple Pay, through Google Pay, through Samsung Pay, through Venmo, through PayPal, all these different ways. You're going to
Yeah.
need that. And Braintree's, seems like they're the best position to really capitalize on the fact that so many different people want to pay different ways around the world, and you have to be able to access, you have to be able to offer these other ways of paying, or you're just going to limit your business in such a substantial way. And it's just like I think about like if I ran a business selling, I don't know, coffee mugs, like why wouldn't I use Braintree? Why
Yeah.
would you know what I mean? Like that's what I
Well,
think about. I'm like, why? I think it would be the best thing for my business.
the
So
truth is I find if you were selling coffee mugs, Braintree's not calling you. You
that's true.
you're not using Braintree. You know what I mean? Because you know who uses Braintree is like Meta, TikTok,
Mhm.
They just signed a deal with Allstate. They're dealing with bookings.com, like massive, massive clients. But obviously, there's a real solution to Braintree that there's a reason why those large services are using it that smaller coffee mug businesses will want to use. And so that is what PayPal Complete Payments is. And they're going to start to offer like where Stripe and Adyen, well, mainly Stripe, has absolutely exploded. I honestly think that PayPal is going to have a real go at those small to medium sized businesses.
Yeah.
What they spoke about in this earnings call, they said they couldn't be more pleased, in quotes, couldn't be more pleased with the rollout of PayPal Complete Payments. Okay. They
No.
said that they've already started to implement it with some of their larger merchant platforms like Adobe, Lightspeed, Shift4, Shopify, Stack Payments, UltraCare, Wix, WooCommerce, with 25 additional more channels just like those scheduled to be live by the end of the year. And that is really where I think that those mug style like small to medium sized businesses
Yeah.
are all going to be going. You're getting that Braintree style, but having that PayPal brand on it,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah. No, 100%. It just, and by the way, for the coffee mug example, that's like a scaled up coffee mug business. But no, it's just
Yeah.
a thought process of like, if I had to choose something, like I would want to use Braintree because I mean, who else has those sorts of all those
Yeah.
options laid out for you there? That's just beautiful. And something like a Stripe is very limited. We've used Stripe for years, and it's an up and down experience certainly with Stripe, and we've used other ones, and it's just a clunky experience. And yeah, you know what else is fascinating about the whole CEO thing is, sometimes I do wonder. I'm like, could they be trying to do some sort of merger um, with a bigger company like a Meta or somebody like that? Like I think that's a low probability, and I hope they're not doing that. But I do think about that because I'm like, what? Why haven't they announced CEO yet? Like the next CEO, and I was just like,
Mm,
what if they were working on something transformative like that, right? Um, it's just, because PayPal is a really attractive asset right now. I mean, the company's trading so cheap. You could probably get the company right now if you were to buy them out, $95, maybe $105 a share. And for a company like PayPal, what you're getting there is just like, oh my gosh, like that's a lot of bang for the
yeah.
buck for a big
Yeah.
tech company to kind of merge them in, dilute that shareholder base, and then the PayPal shareholders would get maybe some sort of cash compensation, but they would get shares in the new company, or not the new company, but the merged into company. So, anyways, that's just kind of like an out there thought. I hope it's not happening. It's one of those things I consider with how long things are kind of taking there. But man, there's got to be some big dog companies out there that are looking at PayPal salivating right now, thinking about where it's
Yeah.
valuation at. And man, it's a really attractive asset. So,
No,
but
I think so completely. I haven't given thought to any mergers, but now I'm thinking, which names, would be on the docket for that. What I have thought about is acquisitions for PayPal to target. I was
yeah.
thinking Robinhood. I've always,
Ooh.
because PayPal has spoken about the idea of them wanting to get into equities trading, right?
Yeah.
They said Venmo would be a perfect option to have equities trading, but we all know, like just like what you said earlier with PayPal, it's easy to say you're going to want to get into those things. In reality, there are small things, small features that investors love where they'll need to have those things. If you just went out and acquired Robinhood, not only would you be getting a service that potentially 20 plus million people love, but then offering it to a potential 400 million people, for example, it
Yeah.
would help with the global growth aspect on Robinhood. They're already wanting to expand into UK. You could get them into, Europe and all these things. And also, like, I don't know. I'm just a big fan of, especially whenever you're talking about payments. PayPal has been always focused on the e-commerce side, but
Yeah.
now they're starting to get into other things like direct deposit users. If you actually control someone's payments, like the inflows, then you also control all of their outflows, right? People's
Yep.
payments whenever they go out to eat or things like this, in-person payments, everything like this. People have to spend that money. PayPal can control all of that. That's a ton of growth there.
Yeah, the tough thing for PayPal is, so Robinhood right now is trading at like a $10 billion market cap. So you'd probably need to pay at least like 14 billion to buy it. And then
Yeah.
the big question is it worth doing that acquisition or spending that money in-house, building your own brokerage, and then offering that still to all your customers and clients, in spending a lot of that money on marketing and customer acquisition rather than spending on the actual acquisition of Robinhood. But that is an interesting one because
Yeah.
Robinhood is one of those companies that feels like they should be acquired. It doesn't feel like Robinhood can stand on its own 2 feet and be like, there's just a lot of those companies out there that they should be acquired. There's a lot
Right.
of them. Yeah, I mean, back in the day, even GoPro still is one of those companies that came to mind. Fitbit was one of those companies that always came to mind. Pinterest has been one of those companies. Twitter was one of those companies for a long time. That's like they should be bought out. Snapchat, another great example of a company that it doesn't feel like it should be its own,
Sure.
standalone company. It feels like it should be brought in by a bigger company and ran as kind of a, accessory business, to run ads and things like that. So, like by a Google or somebody like that. But anyways, yeah, I definitely agree with that. Affirm's another weird one that Affirm kind of feels like they're got to be bought out long term, or maybe they go under one of the two scenarios. But I
Yeah,
don't know.
honestly, I think about that a lot. Like, how does a firm survive in this arena anymore, with the likes of like PayPal offering buy now, pay later for so like for relatively free? You know what I mean? They're offering it for
Mhm.
the same convenience as just regular, purchases. They're offering it for the same take rate to the merchants. They're offering no risk to the merchant. Where's the risk here? And yet Affirm, I don't know if you follow them closely, but they sort of sport this a low customer acquisition cost. They send half of their shares to Amazon and Shopify and all of these companies to gain customers, and they're looking around going, look how many merchants love
Yeah.
Affirm. It's like, yeah, you're giving up your whole company to, like, PayPal could do that too. They're keeping their whole business for themselves.
Yeah, 100%. And then you add on the fact of what happens if we had a medium to major recession, and can a firm hold through in a medium to major recession? I know PayPal can. I know they'll make it to the other side, but doesn't a firm? I think there's a big question mark on that one. If we
Yeah.
were talking about a scenario where unemployment went to 6, 7, 8%, never mind if it went to 9 to 10%, and you had a bad economy for 2 years, I don't know if a firm makes it. But PayPal, I do know, makes it. So that's another situation you get into, and I think that's something that needs to be considered with all these fintech companies is the market cycle we're in right now, which we're in. We're in a scary predicament. Interest rates are the highest we've really seen them in 20 plus years, and you have an employment picture that's about as good as it gets. Like
Right.
it's not like you're going to be able to bring employment, the unemployment rate down anymore. You're in the threes, so as good as it gets. So I think there's significant risk for the overall economy over this next 12 to 18 months, which means there's ultimately risk to all fintech, but especially the ones that are kind of like, they're losing a lot of money, or they're barely making money right now.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what happens in a downward economy? Like, how do those guys make it? PayPal, they make so much money that even in a down economy, they could still make a lot of money, right? Whereas these other guys that are losing money, just understand if we're in a bad economy, they're going to lose way more money than what they're losing right now.
Right. Right.
And, and if you got these companies that are barely making a profit, those barely profits are going to turn to medium to large losses, and it'll happen quickly. So I think that's another factor that should be accounted for in all these fintech plays is that risk side of things. So